Hello, students. When we were young, we loved magic tricks. We were filled with awe when the magicians come on stage. Slowly, when we started growing, we understood there should be some tricks behind, and it's not real. Once we are grown up, when we see a magician doing a real magic on stage, making a bird disappear and reappear in front of us, we could not believe our eyes. And definitely, we believe in magic. But at the same time, it kindles our curiosity, and we Google for how those tricks happen. Is magic real or fake? Why do we enjoy looking at magic? Everyone knows these are tricks and not real. It's not as though we don't know our senses are being deceived, but still watch and wait for the real. Am I right? It might be more of a surprise to find there is a university laboratory dedicated to understand magic, the Magic Lab, part of psychology department at Goldsmiths, University of London. The principles behind magic are rooted in the areas that overlap with psychology, perception, attention, and how we process information. Magic is all about manipulating our perceptions, exploiting the cognitive loopholes. Misdirection is a key part of magic. Getting people to not to look at what's important but to distract them. Change the subject, use a dramatic prop and push their attention elsewhere so they don't see what is happening in front of their eyes. Another key part of a magic trick is the forcing technique. This is where someone thinks they are choosing a card at random, but the magician is really manipulating their decision and the choices are false. Likewise, if we were confronted with something disoriented or distorted our senses, it would be deeply disturbing. But when it's put into a context of a magic trick, it becomes entertaining and amusing. Magic allows you to experience the impossible. It creates a conflict between the things you can think can happen and the things that you can experience. How? Let's start with the basics. Vision is the most trusted sense. Am I right? And the influences of many of our thoughts and behaviors. In fact, vision is so important that we often don't believe things until we see them with our own eyes. But it turns out that visual experiences are far less reliable than we intuitively think. It's relatively easy to distort your perceptual experience. And these distortions become very apparent when we look at visual illusion. Wonder why am I talking this now, children? Let's think, children. When you see someone invisible in television, we will not believe. We think it's of technology. When we hear stories about the same, we will not believe. We think it's a cooked up one. But when we see in our eyes, we believe and scare for it's a ghost. Yes, it's all about how we perceive things. So, the one who knows these can trick us either to entertain or to scare. And so, our today's lesson is Footprints Without Feet from your supplementary reader. An interesting story. The author of the book is also liked so much it seems and named the book with its title. Let's learn about the author, children. H.G. Wells, Herbert George Wells. He was born on 21st September 1866 in England. He was a great writer who wrote novels, history and science fiction. The most famous works of H.G. Wells are The Time Machine, The Invisible Man. He died on 13th August 1946. Okay, let's begin with the story now. The storyline starts like this. Two boys in London were surprised and fascinated because they had seen the muddy imprints of a barefooted man. But they did not see any man there. Soon the footprints became fainter and fainter and finally disappeared. All this surprised the boys. The boys were actually following a scientist named Griffin. He had just discovered how to make human body transparent. He carried out many experiments to prove that human body could become invisible. Finally, he swallowed some rare drugs and his body became transparent. He could see everybody, but nobody can see him. His landlord actually disliked him and tried to eject him from his house, which made Griffin angry. So, in revenge, he set his house on fire. To remain unseen from that, he removed his clothes. He was safe from being caught, but he had no money. The air was bitterly cold and it was not easy to walk without clothes. So he entered into a London store for warmth. He enjoyed the pleasure of clothes and foods. He fitted himself with warm clothes there. He became fully dressed up with shoes, overcoat, and a hat. After wearing the clothes, he became visible, like people can see him through his clothing. He had cold meat, coffee, sweets, and wine from the grocery store. He slept peacefully on a pile of quills. He didn't wake up until the shop assistants arrived the next morning. When they came near, he got panicked and began to run. He could be invisible only when he removed his clothes, so he took off his newly found clothes. Once again, he started feeling cold in the January air. He hurried to the Drury Lane, the center of the theatre world. He found a suitable shop there and went upstairs, and came out a little later wearing bandages round his forehead with the dark glasses, false nose, and big bushy whiskers. He attacked the shopkeeper and robbed all his money. Griffin wanted to get away from the crowded London. He came to the village of Epping. He booked 2 rooms in the local inn. The arrival of a stranger of such strange appearance became the talk of the people. Mrs. Hall tried to be friendly with her guest, Griffin. He told that he didn't want to be disturbed. He wanted to be alone. She thought her guest was an eccentric scientist. She didn't mind his strange habits and the irritable temper. Griffin's cash finished. He told a lie to her, saying that he was expecting a check at any moment. A strange episode occurred here. A clergyman and his wife were awakened by the noise in the study very early in the morning. A clergyman is a male priest. Okay, children. They came downstairs and heard the chink of money being taken from the desk. With a poker in his hand, the clergyman flung open the door. He shouted, "Surrender!" He was surprised to see the room empty. They looked everywhere, even up the chimney, but couldn't find anyone. They found the desk open and the money was missing. They were highly surprised and couldn't understand anything actually. On the other side, the landlord and his wife, Mrs. Hall, woke up very early. They found Griffin's door wide open. Usually it was shut and locked. So they peeped around but found nobody. Griffin's clothes and bandages were lying on the floor. All of a sudden, Mrs. Hall heard a sniff close to her ears. Then a hat leapt up and dashed into her face. Then the chair became alive. They turned into fear. Let's stop here, children, and think what I said earlier. When it happens in television, we enjoy. When a magician does this on a stage, we wonder. But in real, we are scared. Yes, the same way the landlords got scared when they saw the things on air moving. So they thought something is haunted, and the scientist used his invisibility to trick them. Hope you understood, okay? So let's come back to the story. Then the chair pushed both of them out. Then the door slammed and locked after them. Mrs. Hall almost fell down the stairs and started crying. They were sure the room was haunted by spirits. The villagers suspected that the trouble was caused by witchcraft. When the news of a clergyman's home became known, everyone doubted Griffin's hand in it. This suspicion grew stronger when Griffin suddenly showed some ready cash. So they informed a police constable about the same. Mrs. Hall couldn't wait and she went to Griffin's room. He was there and she asked what was he doing to her chairs upstairs. She also asked how he entered a locked room. The scientist lost his temper. He became furious and shouted, "Very well, I'll show you." Suddenly, he threw away all bandages, whiskers, glasses, and even the nose. Horrified people in the bar were staring at a headless man. Police constable Mr. Jaffers, who had been informed, arrived now. He was totally surprised to find that he was to arrest a man without a head. There followed a wonderful scene. Griffin started throwing his clothes one by one and he became invisible. Some people who tried to hold him were beaten by unseen blows that came from nowhere. In the end, Jaffers were knocked unconscious as he made a last attempt to hold on to the unseen scientist. Nervous and excited people were crying, "Hold him, hold him!" But Griffin was invisible again and free now. No one knew where to lay hands on him. And that's the end of the story, students. So let's proceed with the theme of the story now. The story, Footprints Without Feet, describes the story of a brilliant scientist, Griffin, who degenerated himself into a lawless person. Griffin discovered that human body could become transparent and invisible, but he misused his great discovery. He did not use the power of invisibility for the welfare of the society and humanity at large. He misused it to threaten, trouble, and beat innocent persons and rob them. He made illegal entries in stores and shops and stole things from there. He committed a burglary in a clergyman's house in Epping. Griffin remained invisible or unseen only when he was without clothes. If he put on clothes, he lost his invisibility and could be seen by people around him. The lesson gives a message that misuse of science and its great discoveries can make even a brilliant scientist like Griffin a monster and a threatening lawless person. A genuine scientist works for the good for humanity. He believes in making human lives more comfortable, easier, and pleasurable. He does not misuse his invention for his selfish motive or personal gains. However, Griffin, despite being a brilliant scientist, misused his discovery. Students, pick any three inventions, choose one from that, and write a short paragraph arguing that it is the invention that has had the biggest positive impact on our quality of life. Also, write 2 additional paragraphs. one each explaining why any two of the other inventions, though very important, have not had as great an impact on our quality of life. Hope you all had a great time learning a new chapter today. Catch you all with another interesting story soon. Thank you.